Hello everyone, my name's Brooke and welcome to the Cochrane Polar Bear Habitat. Today with me I have my coworker Gail as well as Caitlin on the camera. And today we'll be having lunch with Ganuk. And we're very excited to share this with everybody virtually and in person, as lunch times here and feeding times here are typically variable, so it's pretty special to have something sort of planned. We do keep their feeding schedule varied for day to day as a good practice for their welfare, so to keep them from having sort of anticipation behaviors and things like that. So we're pretty excited to share lunch with you all. In terms of what Ganuk's getting for lunch today, the container that Gail brought with her is what we call a lunch tray. Inside the lunch tray today we have some pieces of pumpkin and some mousse. Right now in the fall, the bears are eating quite a bit of pumpkin compared to the summer when they're eating a lot more watermelons. So he'll be having that sort of for his snack. That's not the only thing they get here. To kind of fill out their diet, they also will eat a couple different types of fish. So right now they're getting capelin and mackerel as their types of fish. We'll rotate this throughout the year to keep it interesting for them too. Sorry, I forgot to mention as well, if anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in on the chat or in person, and I can go ahead and answer those too. So as well as their pumpkin, their moose meat, and their fish, they will get fat sources. So polar bears are obligate carnivores, which means that they're meat eaters, but more specifically they target fat. So we have the rendered down version of seal blubber here for our bears that we call seal oil. And we also have a couple different types of lard. When it comes to personal preference, Ganuk can be a little bit picky, so he doesn't like the lard very much. He only likes the seal oil, and he very specifically likes to eat it in a mixture of his fish heads and fish tails. So he gets it all ground up into what we call his mash, and he gets that spoon fed each day with his vitamins in it as well. Another thing that our bears get here at the habitat is Missouri, which is a polar bear dry kibble. It is specially formulated for bears, which means that it's nice and high in fat, and it has all of the sort of essential nutrients and vitamins that they need for their day-to-day. So they do get a bit of that. It can be fed as a complete diet, but we like to feed them whole foods here as well. So I'll talk a little bit about Ganuk as well. So Ganuk here is 15 years old. He's the longest resident bear here at the habitat. He's been here for over a decade. He weighs over 1,200 pounds right now. And he was born in Quebec at the Zoo Sauvage. And when he was about 2.5 years old, his mom started to push him away. That behavior is a behavior that we see in the wild as well. So with wild bears, mom will start to push the cubs away at about 2.5, and say it's time for you to go on your own. So when they started seeing that behavior, they reached out to us and had Ganuk moved over here. When it comes to different feeding methods, you can see for lunch today, Ganuk is getting hand-fed by Gail. So we put the piece of food through the mesh for him to be able to grab. Other methods that we may use is spoon feeding. We might also do a pile feed or a scatter feed, so we can use different spaces inside the enclosures to move food throughout so that they need to use their sense of smell to locate it. Other things we might do is use different novel objects like cardboard boxes and tubes and things like that to create puzzle feeders. So they have to use their kind of brain to figure out how to get into the food, do some of the crushing and ripping motions that they might have to do in the wild if they were to catch a seal.
We've got some questions. Okay. Do they eat ice, grass, or peppers?
Oh, great questions. So they do get freezies. We'll often have sort of big buckets that we make freezies in that have a mixture of things like fish juice or moose blood that they do like to eat and scrape at as well. In terms of the peppers, both of the boys here do not like bell peppers. They actually have a gross list that we keep in the bear holding building of all the different produce items that they don't like. So peppers is definitely on there. Things like broccoli and cauliflower, cucumbers and celery are also a no-go for the bears here. They don't like those produce items. So we have to keep up with what their likes and dislikes are as well.
And do they make noise when they eat?
So you might be able to hear it slightly if I sort of get quiet for a moment. You can hear the crunching of Ganuk having his pumpkin.
Some very soft chewing.
When it comes to being a noisy eater, Henry definitely has Ganuk beat. Ganuk, I think, is a much more quiet chewer.
How much does each bear weigh right now?
So Ganuk right now, I believe, is somewhere close to 1,200, and Gail, correct me?
They're both very close right now.
Like 50, roughly 50 pounds. Yeah, and then Henry is 1,254 pounds last time I checked.
How much more are they expected to gain this winter?
So they're both kind of at their higher weight right now, going into winter. So I wouldn't expect them to get too much heavier than what they are now. So they've packed on some weight going from summer to fall. So I'm not expecting too much more weight gain for this year.
Do they prey on walruses as well?
They have been known in the wild that they can be seen eating walruses, sure. But their primary prey item are ringed seals. So they will use their incredible sense of smell. You can see how big Ganuk's nose is. And they'll use their sense of smell to smell for seal breathing holes. And so when they locate a seal breathing hole in the wild, they will still hunt. So in order to conserve energy, they're not actively running or swimming after prey items. They are sitting and waiting for the seal to pop up, and that's when they'll use their pretty amazing claws and jaw strength to be able to pull the seal up onto the ice to be able to eat it. So their primary food source is ringed seals in the wild.
Can we still bring them pumpkins?
Yes, we are still accepting pumpkin donations from the community. Thank you. So right now, Ganuk is eating in our enclosure A. Our bears here have 5 different enclosures and a total of 24 acres. So they can rotate their enclosures throughout the day. So as a part of the variety in how they get their food, we also change the location in which they get their food. So it's no 2 days are the same for that either. So yeah, right now lunch is in enclosure A, but we will switch it out from day to day on where they're going to eat and how they're going to eat. A little picky with those pumpkin pieces and would prefer some moose, it looks like, for today at lunch.
Didn't plan choice training, but he's using.
Yeah. So sometimes they can sort of show their preference. He might spit the pumpkin pieces out now and then return to them later, or just leave them. And then us as the animal care team would note the different foods that potentially he's not liking as much anymore, and we can switch things up. So some other produce we have right now in the fridge for them are carrots and sweet potatoes. So if he's not liking the pumpkin so much, we can switch it up and give him something else as well.
How many teeth do they have?
That is a fantastic question. On average, it is 42 teeth, but each individual can be a little bit different, kind of like people. You can see he looks away every once in a while, hearing and smelling different things in the environment. So even though he's having lunch, he's pretty calm. He's also curious what's going on around him as well. So as special sort of treats that are not a part of his normal diet, the bears here can also get some bigger items like whole turkeys and things like that as kind of like big gorge feed. I'm sure some of our watchers and our listeners have seen kind of the gorge feed from the pumpkin that was donated as well. So the volume of food that they eat at a time can be different. So this lunch tray is a pretty decent sized lunch tray, pretty big, but sometimes when we feed them throughout the day, it'll be a smaller amount as well, kind of depending on their mood. So we look at their behavior, and that kind of dictates what we get up to with them throughout the day. Another potential reason for Ganuk spitting out those pieces of pumpkin could be how crunchy it is. So Ganuk in particular likes to have some pretty soft foods. So we will often grind up or shred some of his produce and kind of put it into a cup and feed it to him off a spoon. That way the pieces are a bit smaller and it's not as crunchy for him. This is also something that can be his preference because of his seasonal allergies. So he does have environmental allergies, and as a part of that, he has different symptoms, and so soft foods can sometimes be easier on him because of that.
What kind of fish do they eat?
Good question. So right now we have mackerel and capelin as our two types of fish that we're giving our bears for some variety, but we also often get herring in as well as a fish for them. In the past, our bears have also been offered seal meat, so very, very close to their natural diet, to feed them seal oil and seal meat. Ganuk was actually the only bear that liked it during the time that we trialed that meat, so we discontinued it because the other bears we had here at the time were not interested in that, and in fact Henry would spit the seal meat back out at you. So we changed that up for him, and so they're primarily having moose meat now. In terms of the sort of value of the produce, we give them the produce as something that is kind of novel. They like the different tastes and textures, and also it helps make them feel full without having them gain too much weight. So in the wilds, polar bears are having to gain as much weight as possible, especially in the southern Hudson's Bay subpopulation, because they're going to have no ice access during the summer. The ice is going to melt, they won't be able to have that ice platform to be able to hunt seals. But here at the habitat, our bears don't have to worry about their next meal because we'll always be there for them. So we don't have to have them gain as much weight as a wild bear would have to before the fast. So we can use the produce, the pumpkins and watermelons and things like that to help make them feel full without having them gain too much weight.
What meat do they like the best?
Oh, good question. I would say that moose meat is a pretty big hit around here. So when it comes to kind of the meat that they get as a part of their normal diet, they do definitely really enjoy that. Occasionally they will be offered poultry for different things, but moose meat is definitely a preferred meat choice for our bears. We're very, very lucky. We have a local butcher who provides us with moose meat for the bears after he cuts down the game from local community members hunting.
How many times a day do they eat?
So from day to day it varies. They kind of dictate sometimes how much they eat and how often they eat. So take for example a day when let's say Henry spends, sometimes 4 hours swimming out in the lake. We won't interrupt or try and interrupt him swimming in that case. We'll keep an eye on him, of course, and then maybe when he comes out, then we'll offer him a meal. So potentially in that day, because he's been so busy swimming, he'll kind of have a couple bigger meals compared to a day that maybe he's hanging out a bit closer to bear holding or hanging out in areas that might show us that he is looking for food. We have a particular rock near the pool in the enclosure A that we kind of call Henry's Hungry Rock, which is a place that he goes that would indicate to us that he's potentially looking for a snack. So on those days, we might be doing a bit more sort of frequent but smaller feedings. It also depends on their medical needs. So our bears here are trained using positive reinforcement. And so as a reward for participating in training, food can be used. So if we're doing potentially practice for a veterinary visit or something like that, a fair amount of food for that day might go towards that kind of practice as well. I'm not sure if those of you online can hear, but we have ravens walking with us at lunch today too. So in terms of other wildlife at the habitat, our bears do get moose bones quite often, and the ravens definitely use that opportunity to try and grab a quick snack as well. So if the bears are slow to get to the moose bone, or leave it behind, or some pieces of it behind, the ravens will definitely capitalize on that opportunity as well.
Will we be getting another bear?
Good question. So here at the habitat, our kind of motto is that our doors are always open. So we're always ready to take in a bear in need, whether that's from the wild or whether that's from another facility. So the 2 boys we have now have come from other facilities, but we are also listed with the Ministry of Natural Resources. So if there was to be an orphaned cub under a year old in the wild in Ontario, that we would be on the list to be able to take that bear in and provide that bear with the care they need to survive. For the folks in person, did you have any questions? No? Okay, perfect. For those of you online, I do believe we're getting close to the end of the lunch tray here, so if you have any final questions for us to wrap up lunch with Ganuk. So at the end of the session here, I'll do a brief pause. With a part of our training, our bears also have visual and verbal signals to indicate when a session is completed. So following Ganuk finishing his session, Gail will go ahead and let him know that as well.
I think we've got one more question.
Okay.
Have we had cubs at the habitat before?
Ooh, we have not had cubs at the habitat before. I'll just pause for a second here. All right, thanks for the pause. I just wanted to make sure that Ganuk heard his cue from Gail. So we have not, in terms of the youngest sort of bears that we've had here, both Ganuk and Henry were about 2.5 years old when they arrived here at the habitat. So we haven't had any bears sort of under that age. But we do have kind of the infrastructure in order to be able to support if that ever was a possibility.
We had one more question come in at the end of that. How are his allergies doing?
He's doing pretty good. We've definitely been working very closely with a very thorough vet team. Lots of specialization there as well. He does have a dermatologist, and so he's getting very, very good care, and we are trying out different treatments to make sure that he's as healthy as possible. So that's been going really well with the different treatments that we've had going on for him. He's cleaning up a little bit of his pumpkin mess there.
How many calories does each bear need or eat every day? And does this change throughout the year?
That's a fantastic question. It does change throughout the year. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you exactly what each bear is having right now. The fat sources that they get are incredibly calorically dense, but in terms of weight, I would say they get somewhere, depending on throughout the year, somewhere between probably like 8 and 15 to 20 pounds of food a day. So it does kind of depend on the time of year and what they get up to, and there are different hunger cues that they're showing us as well. So alrighty, well, thank you everyone for joining us for lunch with Ganuk, and for your questions and interaction, and I hope that everyone has a lovely day.